Reimagined in a suburban English garden, Caryl Churchill's renowned play Escaped Alone, 2016, interweaves the chit-chat among four elderly female friends with a series of introspective monologues. While three of the friends reveal their crippling anxieties, the fourth, Mrs. Jarrett, narrates a paradoxical and often absurd yet strangely believable collection of apocalyptic scenarios in past tense. The play made its debut at London's Royal Court Theatre in 2016, receiving rave reviews. Critics observed that while Escaped Alone upholds Churchill's leftist and feminist principles, akin to her acclaimed works Top Girls and Cloud 9, it also possesses a fractured, occasionally abstract quality reminiscent of Samuel Beckett, The Atlantic. The title of the play draws inspiration from the Book of Job in the Bible, which also provides an epigraph. The play commences with Mrs. Jarrett strolling along a suburban street. Peering through an open garden gate, she spots three familiar women seated together in a garden, with an untouched tea tray before them. They extend an invitation, and Mrs. Jarrett joins them as they engage in a casual discussion, exploring a range of personal topics, from trivial matters like misplaced keys to weightier subjects such as battles with illness. All four women, aged over 70, carry with them rich histories of work and family life. However, the tea is never served. Yet, amidst the pleasant conversation, Mrs. Jarrett frequently interrupts, rising to deliver brief monologues that directly address the audience. During these asides, she seemingly narrates an entirely distinct reality or multiple versions of reality, in which civilization has met an apocalyptic demise. She depicts cataclysmic events such as floods, fires, mass evacuations, rockfalls, and countries transformed into desolate wastelands. Most of her descriptions of this world possess a slightly absurdist tone. For instance, she mentions the staggering number of birth deformities surpassing the annual immigration of plastic surgeons. As time progresses, these monologues contradict one another, offering alternate renditions of the apocalypse. In one version, corporations engineer rocks to specifically target and harm the underprivileged, directing individual stones towards each child's head, leading the survivors to seek refuge underground. Another narrative portrays a flooded world where people are compelled to take refuge on their rooftops, resorting to catching pigeons with nets for sustenance. The monologues Mrs. Jarrett delivers offer no indication as to whether they represent truth or fantasy, or why she serves as their messenger. Meanwhile, we become acquainted with the other women. Sally, a retired NHS worker, exudes eagerness, while Lena, formerly an office worker, displays a somewhat shy disposition. Vi, a retired hairdresser, possesses a more working-class background compared to the other two, but she is jovial and outgoing, seamlessly fitting into the group dynamic. The four women share a comfortable camaraderie, often finishing each other's sentences and even breaking into a flawless a cappella rendition of the Crystals' 1963 hit, "De Do Ron Ron," in a delightful moment from the Royal Court production. Their conversations appear rooted in the present day, as they express disdain for the younger generation's addiction to iPhones and cooking shows. However, their dialogues occasionally take on a cryptic tone, hinting at alternative realities or dystopian elements, such as when they discuss a trigger word. Mrs. Jarrett's asides draw upon or mirror these conversations. In her third monologue, Mrs. Jarrett remarks that the hunger epidemic commenced when 80% of food was diverted to TV programs. Commuters watched breakfast on iPlayer during their journeys to work, and smartphones were distributed by charities when rice supplies depleted, allowing the dying to watch cooking shows. Meanwhile, the obese resorted to selling themselves by the slice, and mushrooms became a form of currency, traded for urine. As the play progresses, the other three women also offer their own monologues, distinct in nature from Mrs. Jarrett's. Sally discloses a deep-seated fear of cats, so intense that it transcends mere phobia and enters the realm of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Throughout the night, she repeatedly checks and rechecks her front door lock, fearful that a cat may have sneaked inside. Vi discloses a dark secret from her past, confessing that she may have killed her husband many years ago, though she remains uncertain if it was an act of self-defense. After spending 6 years in prison, she found herself estranged from her son, plagued by worries that she exposed him to too much violence and bloodshed. Lena, on the other hand, grapples with extreme agoraphobia, where a single thought can immobilize her for hours. Although she struggles to even make it to the grocery store, her heart longs for a visit to Japan. Meanwhile, Mrs. Jarrett repeatedly utters the words terrible rage, echoing her deep-seated emotions. The play refuses to provide definitive conclusions, instead allowing the sense of fear and anger to intensify as the afternoon shadows lengthen. Escaped Alone mercilessly satirizes contemporary capitalist culture, portraying it as stagnant and voracious. Simultaneously, it celebrates the often marginalized voices and emotions of aging women, merging the resilience necessary to endure an impending apocalypse with the resilience required to navigate 70 years as women in a stagnant and voracious society. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.